Well, happy Schlockoween, everybody. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and joining me is my good pal Chris Anonymous, and we have a very special guest with us today, Michael Schluter, actor extraordinaire. He's been on the show before, but first, before we talk about that, I want to tell you our movie for this week. It's our Halloween special. We love doing these happy holiday specials. The Monster Squad from 1987, a cult classic and a favorite of children everywhere. I assume. So, Michael, you have been on this podcast how many times? 3 times?
I think I was featured once when we did Clue up at the cabin, and then I was on another time when I was up visiting Chris.
Then you were just a little surprise guest. So
Yeah.
A lot of you out there might be going like, "Who the hell is this guy?" So Michael, he has been a friend of ours for a solid 20 years. In fact, he is the reason that Chris and I even know each other, and he's basically the reason this podcast exists. It could not
I don't know about that
without Michael Schluter. But
I'm
Michael,
the connector, that's all.
Yeah, exactly. Bring people together, man. It's a skill. So a big reason that we have him on this week is because as you know, if you've been watching or listening to the show, we have some things in the pipeline. We've been working on a short film, not quite feature film. I like to call it a micro feature called Teddy Bear. And Michael, he was not in Teddy Bear. He did have a part in it at one point in time, but we cut it due to basically time and resources. But
they couldn't afford me.
Yeah, couldn't afford him. The hourly rate was too much. But he was behind the scenes. He was I don't know what you would call it, a grip. You gripped things, right?
Yeah.
You ran the Clapper deal, which has been very, very helpful in getting all of this put together. But he basically was a great production assistant and went around and took a lot of abuse from us. He's been our whipping boy for 20 years, but he's got such a good personality.
We could not have done it without him, for sure.
And just a few weekends ago, we filmed another short film, a true short film, not a micro feature, where it's basically just Michael by himself doing things.
Scary.
I bet that sounds
hopefully
very
that'll
interesting.
be entertaining.
But hopefully that'll be getting off our plate soon, and we can talk about it a little bit more. But Michael has been helping us out behind the scenes for quite a while. So we thought, hey, we're doing a fun friend movie. Let's get our fun friend here with us. Awesome.
And he wasn't available, so we got Michael.
Exactly.
So then we called Michael. Well, so the movie that we're talking about is Monster Squad from 1987. It's kind of like it's like the next tier down from the Goonies. That's sort of how I hear it described. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yep.
I think so.
It's in the Goonies vein.
Sure.
So tell me, Chris, you've seen this before, correct? And you are
I'm a big fan. I've seen it. Several half dozen times throughout the decades, and I enjoy it every time.
When did you first see it? When did you first see it and fall in love with the Monster Squad?
Not as early as I would have liked. I was thinking about like 80s kids movies and kids on bike movies, and I want to say it was probably late 90s when I first saw it. So
really?
Wow, yeah. I mean, maybe like
that.
95, 96 is when I first saw it. I would have loved to have seen it in like 87 or 88, but no.
We got Maniac Clown in the chat. He's actually the person that, or she, I don't know. There's girl Maniac Clowns. This is a long time subscriber to the channel. Recommended this movie to us last time. So thank you.
Thank you. It's always good to thank maniac clowns because you don't know what
That's
they're
right. You
capable
never
of
know.
doing. Yeah.
You never know who's behind those masks.
Right.
I got a funny a little aside here. Doesn't have anything to do with Monster Squad, but I think this is kind of interesting. The place that I work for is a college, and Halloween is coming up, and they don't post the signs anymore. But they used to post signs all around. I think the policy is still in place that there are certain Halloween costumes that you are strictly forbidden from wearing on campus.
Really? Okay.
Clowns are definitely one of them.
And one is racial stereotypes and the other is clowns.
Huh.
I think that's very funny.
I don't know that they ever put it up. So a lot of the viewers might not know that I met both of you in junior college. But I remember when I was part of the student government there, that it was heavily discouraged to wear clown costumes there, and that was
so that went back a
20
long
years
time
ago.
See, the first time I saw it was back in 2017, back in the good old days, when like there was like that surge of people dressing up as evil clowns, and they just stand on the street corners with baseball bats and stuff. I thought it had to do with that. Back in the good old days when the world was still sane, and we just had killer clowns.
Yeah, what we feared was a clown walking out of the woods. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to me because when I was growing up, the woman who actually introduced my dad to my stepmom was a licensed clown. Like, she was a friend of the family. I know, it's wild, but she was like rode the unicycle and was like super, super good at it.
3 hours later, they get back to Monster Squad.
Well, yeah. But I actually, as a kid, really, really wanted to go to clown school. Like, that was a dream.
I don't think any of us expected him to say that.
A little bit. Maniac says the world's never been sane.
That's also true.
It has
probably true. Well, to get off of that chair,
clowns also had an innocence. Like my cousin had, her whole bedroom was like clowns. So it went. I think in the last 30
it sounds
years,
like your cousin had a creepy bedroom.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't at all.
You see what you brought out of this maniac clown?
You've both met Natalie. So, but anyway, it's
cut his mic. He's naming names. He's naming names.
Moratorium on clowns for the rest of the show.
They're forbidden, except our favorite maniac clown.
Correct.
That's right.
So, Michael, we'll get back to Monster Squad here. When you said that you just saw Monster Squad last week, providentially.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
For the first time.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, 2 Sundays ago. So that would have been the 6th of October.
So you've seen it as an adult. Just very, very briefly, how do you feel about it? You like it, dislike it, good, bad?
I liked it. Absolutely.
Liked it?
I in fact, to a regrettable level, that I have never seen it before, because I think I would have absolutely loved this.
See, and that's how I felt, 30 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I would have been 4 when this movie came out.
Right, but you could have saw it in the early 90s still.
Right, and I wish, like, when I had birthday parties growing up, I remember having a pin the tail, or not
on the
pin
clown?
the tail. No, no, not the clown. Like pin the bolts on Frankenstein. Pin the bolts on Frankenstein, because I had a Frankenstein party, and I was obsessed with like Dracula and these concepts.
So it would have been perfect.
It'd be right up your alley.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've got someone who saw it 30 years ago, someone who saw it 3 days ago. When did you first see it, Darby?
I can't remember exactly when I first saw it. I was at least in my 20s. I've seen this movie 3 times. This latest time being the 3rd time, and it was when I was just first kind of getting into. I think it's when Netflix was still giving out DVDs. I was like, oh, cult classic in the line of Goonies with Monster. Oh, all right, let's see it. And my opinion of it then is it's still the same now. It's that it's a little stupid. I think I would have loved it when I was a kid.
Right.
As an adult, it's a little dumb.
Little dumb. Little dumb. I couldn't agree more.
I mean, most of them are.
I will let the chat fight me, and I will let Chris defend this movie because I know I know some specific reasons why you like it, and it has to do with some of the people that have worked on it.
Correct.
And that we'll talk about that a little bit later in the Web of Schlock. But while I was researching
exactly,
this, Maniac says yes, but the key is that they knew it was stupid, and I think that's true. And I think that's specifically because of the writer who we'll talk about.
Yeah, which we'll get into here in a second.
But while I was researching this, it looked like there's 13 missing minutes from the movie.
Yes, I read that too.
And so basically, every complaint I have about it, it may be made up in that 13 minutes. But this movie is what we have.
Glaring issue.
Yeah, I agree. I have a lot of issues with this movie, but that doesn't take away my love for it.
Sure.
I love it in spite of several big problems.
Yeah. I mean, I recently received this DVD set. It's all the old classic Universal monster movies. And there's like 35 movies on there. And the DVD set is actually a banger because it has like all these commentaries and behind the scenes and stuff. I'd really recommend it. Actually, I have it right here. I'll pull it up. This isn't a paid advertisement or anything, but it
retroactively,
is.
if
the links in the comments, right?
Yeah, links in. Classic Monsters complete 30 film collection.
You're lucky that there are classic monsters behind you because that totally disappeared.
Nah, well. Anyway, great set. Been watching. Started watching them, and it's got the original. Well, not original, but the Bela Lugosi Dracula, who like all these Draculas are kind of based on since then, as far as film goes. It's got Frankenstein, right, and it's very cool to have just seen those movies and start watching this movie and see all of the callbacks that are in this movie, like in the very opening scene when they get into Dracula's lair. There's armadillos wandering around, and one of the Dracula concubines, she's like eating a possum. That's not the eating the possum, but armadillos and possums were in the original Dracula. Very odd that they're there. I don't think they're in Transylvania, but it was something weird to put in, right? And
verify that.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure there aren't armadillos in Transylvania. I don't know about possums, but like seeing the callback to Frankenstein, things like that, it was very cool, and that's definitely what they were trying to do. And it's interesting that they legally, the Monster Squad, the filmmakers, couldn't legally make those monsters specifically, right? Because that's owned by Universal.
Really?
So they had to tweak them just enough to stay legally distinct.
Right. They had to make the Universal monsters a little bit more
less universal. Oh, yeah. Stan Winston Studios worked on it. Stan Winston's like favorite monster creators, done the best movies.
I mean, yeah.
Apparently, the Wolfman, his face is based off of Stan Winston's face, and once I read that, I was like, oh, yeah, it does look like Stan Winston. Also, it looks kind of funny. Stan Winston.
Sorry, Stan.
Sorry, Stan. So we're 15 minutes in. Let's get on with this show. If you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe and like and all that stuff. If you are a podcast person, make sure you're rating it. I'm sure you're listening to it on Spotify or iTunes. Make sure you rate it and tell your friends. What we like to do in this show is we like to find movies that are maybe overlooked. This movie itself, it costs $12 million to make, but it only made about $3.7 million back. So it was a big flop. definitely an overlooked movie, definitely a cult classic. And we like to revisit those and try and talk about them like they're Citizen Kane. We like to talk about the good, what we like, the bad, what we didn't like, and the schlock. What are some of the interesting ideas floating around in these movies? But first, what we talk about is the web of schlock. Where did these people come from?
Yeah. And there's a lot of people. There are a lot of people in this. What a great little cast of kids from the 80s. It felt like they were just kids pulled out of the 80s because that's what they were. But it had that vibe. All right, so we have we'll just do all the kids first. We got Ashley Bank. She played Phoebe. And the one thing
freaking adorable.
The one thing we're gonna
she was so adorable.
I mean, definitely stole the show in her scenes for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The thing we're going to find with a lot of these actors and actresses is something we found a lot in other schlock movies from the 80s and early 90s is that, especially with the youth, whether they were teens in a slasher film or kids in a Kids on Bike movie, that they had a lot of work kind of right around their big thing, a lot of TV, and then nothing for, a decade or two. And then you start seeing them come back in a lot of low budget horror. And I think a lot of this has to do with fan service and just fan culture and the idea of a cult classic. And it's really cool of all the Comic-Cons and different festivals that they go to.
Those are tough years to get acting gigs though, Chris. I mean,
you're right. But I mean, you'll see,
you go from a cute kid to a weird looking teen.
But you'll see like 20 or 30 year gaps, and then they'll start doing a lot of really low budget horror movies. So it's not like they're getting regular work. It's that they're getting specifically work that homages what they were in 20 or 30 years before. Mm-hmm. So we'll do a little bit of then and now with each of these kids. So Ashley Banks played Phoebe. She was in a TV movie called The Haunted. She was in an episode of Frasier, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, episode of VeggieTales.
No way.
Yeah.
VeggieTales.
Yeah. And then nothing.
Who was she? Do you know?
It was one of the early episodes in like 94. So you'd have to look it up.
She was a little carrot.
Possibly.
Yep. My memory.
Well, if we ever do some VeggieTales, we'll bring you back on, Michael.
A VeggieTale episode.
Baby.
So, and then nothing until 2011, around there, maybe a couple little TV things. And then she was in a movie called Monster Piece Theater Volume 1. Great title.
Oh, nice.
And then she has a movie that's in production now that'll be coming out called Midnight Marauders, which is from the little blurb is like a home invasion gone wrong with some mob in there. So something to look out for.
So very much in the horror vein.
Very much in the horror. Again, that's
maybe more serious horror.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Ryan Lambert, who played Rudy, was one of the regulars on Kids Incorporated. I want to say like 68 episodes of Kids Incorporated.
Rudy was the like cool older kid, right?
The pervert older kid.
Yeah, no kidding.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
So, and then, he's had to work throughout, but then again, back in 2022, he was in a movie called Wrecker, which is kind of got a horror thriller vibe. And then 2023, The Demons Within. You're looking at these titles, you're getting that same vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got Robbie Kiger, who played Patrick. Now, this is one
debatable.
We'll get into that. He hasn't done anything since 1990. But before that, he was Job and Children of the Corn. He was in an episode of the A-Team and a bunch of other TV shows. So a lot of work right around there.
Or did he change his identity?
Job, which one was Job and Children of the Corn? Was that
I can't remember because we reviewed it a couple of years ago and I can't remember which one he was.
Yeah, he's not the main bad one. That's Jacob.
Right, that's Jacob.
Right?
Yes, that is Jacob. Yep. So then we got Brett Challam, who played Horace, and he was in a bunch of TV, Quantum Leap, Punky Brewster, Mr. Belvedere, like most of the 80s shows. But sadly, he passed away when he was 22 years old in 1997
from pneumonia.
Correct. Yep. So that was a sad thing.
Yeah.
Then we have
Pre-COVID.
Jason Hervey, who played the bully EJ. And what's interesting is when I first saw the movie, when it first came out, I thought he was going to play a much bigger role because, again, I saw it in the early 90s, right? And I knew him from the Wonder Years because he was the older brother in the Wonder Years.
I thought he was going to be the main character.
Correct.
Like they would learn something, or I don't know. Even this time I was very confused because you go from the principal's office scene to that scene. And I thought it was actually those kids like bullying.
My initial thing was I thought they were like going to kind of unite with.
But it's interesting because, like, in my mind, when I first saw it, he was the most famous of those kids because of the TV show Wonder Years, right?
Probably.
So it's interesting to, like, you assume that the actor you know the most is going to obviously be the main character. But this came out in 87, before any of that happened. He had a really small role in Back to the Future. He was in Frankenweenie, lots of TV, and he's kind of stayed consistent with his career. He did some voiceover work for Justice League cartoon. He's been involved in professional wrestling kind of behind the scenes. So
really, that's
behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think he's also done some hosting and like got some TV shows created, and it was a big rabbit hole to look at his filmography. So if you want to know more about Jason Hervey, who played the bully EJ, you should do a deep dive because it's like, okay, and there's this, and it was just too much to write down. I'm like, that's an interesting cat. Yeah, and then we finally have the main guy, Andre Gower, who played Sean. Tons of 80s TV. Mr. Belvedere, Remington Steele, TJ Hooker, Twilight Zone, and then not a lot of work. And then in 2006, he was in Sweet Deadly Dream, 2009, Vault of Darkness, 2018, Baby Frankenstein, and again, also
in that vein.
Yeah, again, in that same vein. And then also in 2018, he directed a documentary, which is on Tubi for free right now. You should go check it out. Wolfman's Got Nards, which is a documentary about this movie. So it's a movie? Yeah, it's a documentary
about Monster Squad.
About Monster Squad.
People love this movie.
Yeah, this is a huge beloved cult classic.
That's awesome.
Okay, so then we've got some of the adults, and these are more. They all have some interesting things. You can go through and look at them all. I'm not going to list them all. I'll just list two, and I'll list them because it's similar to that. They stood out to me because I'd seen them before already, not because they were a bigger star or anything, but it's just like, oh, you latch onto the characters, Yeah. So Tom Noonan, who played Frankenstein in this,
an excellent Frankenstein.
Excellent Frankenstein. He was in RoboCop 2. He was in Manhunter. I knew him as Ripper from Last Action Hero.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought that was a good villain.
Yeah, he was a great villain.
That's an underrated movie.
Yeah. So he's a great actor. He's been tons of things. Always memorable. And so cool shout out there. And then David Proval, I'm probably saying that wrong. He was the pilot in the beginning when Dracula escapes. Do you recognize him, Michael?
What? David Proval. He didn't even take notice of him.
He was the
pilot. He looked super familiar.
Right?
What was he in?
Picture
he's in the Lebowski, isn't he?
Nope. Picture him ripping staples out of his head and getting really mad looking for something orange. UHF.
Oh, totally. He was one of the gangsters.
He was one of the gangsters.
That's right.
But he's been in, he's got like 114 credits. He was in Shawshank Redemption. He's been in every kind of movie you could think of. He was in.
He was the one who held Stanley Spadowski in the closet.
Correct. Yep. That. He was in Mean Streets. Just another one of those actors that you've seen him before, and he just gives a cool performance every time. Okay, so now let's move behind the scenes. This is running a little long, but we have
what the people want.
I got a question for you though first.
Yeah.
Before we move on. So the guy who played the mummy, you never see his face.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I looked it up, that guy's been in stuff.
Yes.
I
Is
he's
an actor or
got such,
something?
I didn't want to look at what he's been in. I just was like, that guy's got the most interesting face of the entire cast, and it was
They-
covered up the whole time.
Hey man, that's
Yeah,
how the
I mean,
cookie crumbles.
Yeah, if you're gonna play a mummy, your face is probably gonna
Dude,
be.
he has
Which-
such a great look, though.
The Mummy does look much better in this than it did in the original Mummy. I'll
Yes,
just
Yeah,
throw that out
Michael
there.
Reed
That's how Mummy's
McKay.
supposed to look.
you're right. You're right. All right, so we got Fred Dekker, who was the director of this film.
Uh-huh.
He also directed Night of the Creeps before this.
Yes.
Which we got to get to someday.
Yep, and he directed RoboCop 3.
hmm
Yeah. He also wrote both of those. He also directed an episode of Tales from the Crypt. But then he's also known, I think, more as a writer.
Big deal.
He wrote The Predator, not Predator, The Predator, with a co-writer. It's okay. I like it. He wrote several episodes of Star Trek Enterprise.
The Predator, the 2018 Predator?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And now we have, he also has story by credit on several films. If Looks Could Kill, Ricochet, Godzilla 1985. And then we did review a movie of his that he had story credit by, House.
House, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. So again, the web of Schlock, it's all connecting. He was also a script doctor on one of your favorite movies, Demolition Man.
That I was just thinking about that movie the other day. One of the most perfect movies ever made.
We should get to that sometime on this.
We
show.
will.
And so a lot of these.
But I wasn't that guy uncredited with a bunch of the Lethal Weapon stuff too?
No, that's the co-writer, Shane
Oh,
Black.
okay.
Here's we're coming up on the part Chris is wanting to be getting to.
Right. So the main reason that I love this movie is that it's written or co-written by Shane Black, who his sense of humor just hits me perfectly. You should know who he is if you're listening to this podcast.
Oh yeah, he's a big deal.
Lethal Weapons, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3,
Predator.
Yep, he was in The Predator. Last Action Hero, Long Kiss Goodnight. I mean, he pretty much defined the action movies of the 90s.
Well, and more so.
Yeah.
The dialogue of a lot of those movies was
Yeah.
I mean,
the action comedy.
Yeah, my understanding is the very way that that Iron Man was presented, the way he dialogued was a direct result of Shane Black. I mean, and also I heard he was partly to blame or responsible for kind of bringing Robert Downey Jr. on to that Marvel project in the beginning before.
Interesting.
Yeah, that way I just heard that. I don't know, but
no, but he is. I mean, he's a great writer, but his style, his stamp is so iconic, and just The Nice Guys, man. That is such a funny, fun, great movie.
It's a good movie,
and you can see all those little hints in this movie.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, and that's the web schlock. I'm sure I missed out on a lot of people.
But big cast, man, and good cast too.
Yeah, great cast.
A lot of work going on. Yeah, so
it's funny that such a prolific writer who came so far was responsible for this that had a lot of loose ends, because I feel like all of those movies that you mentioned, he had writer or director or producer responsibilities on.
Yeah,
completely contrary to what we're seeing in the Monster Squad in terms of continuity.
Again, when you're early on, you don't have as much control over the final cut, right?
Or maybe it's all in that 13 minutes. Who knows?
Right. So, but yeah. So,
yeah. Let's move on to the next section, talking about what we liked about this movie. The what is good section. And Michael, since you are our guest, what did you like about this movie? What do you think is good about Monster Squad?
It appeals to all the things that were popular at the time, but also historic. Like you said, all those Universal films, it paid such beautiful homage to in the makeup, costuming, even the acting portrayals. I read this thing and then I lost it, but about a week ago, this time of year, all the Halloween stuff is popping up. Apparently some kind of a survey was done of, when you think of Dracula or of a vampire, what version what comes to mind? And like the vast majority said that this Dracula from this movie, probably because of our age group and the correlation to this, said that this was the one that comes to mind. Not Bela Lugosi, not any of the other ones. And actually the second one was Nick Cage, surprisingly, from his most recent portrayal.
Really?
So,
yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Huh.
The Dracula in this, what's his name? Duncan Reger?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he's a very good Dracula. Like he makes some weird decisions. Like I don't think he seems that menacing, to be honest.
He doesn't seem menacing, but he seems, I think, poised and cunning and like serious enough. I think it's more the mystery of his portrayal that is so appealing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he
does look suave.
He does,
yeah. It's just suave.
I'm thinking of like iconic Draculas, like obviously Nosferatu. But then I also would throw like Gary Oldman and Bram Stoker's Dracula from the early 90s. I'm like, that's a
but
freaky
I think
Dracula.
He's so old man and so decrepit in moments of that movie. And the long hair and the weird, the weird hair.
The butt-shaped hair.
Yeah, the butt-shaped hair. Yeah. Which I actually heard that the witch in Hocus Pocus, played by Bette Midler, was based on that haircut.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I don't see how that's possible, because didn't Hocus Pocus come out before? I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I think the visual presentation of the monsters is at the pinnacle of what makes this movie excellent. Because I mean that picture right behind you, Darby, is testimony to why this movie is so cool.
Yeah, for sure. A literal ass hat. The Gary Oldman Dracula.
Yep.
Nice one, Maniac Clown. Nice one.
So yeah, talking about all those throwbacks, and I do think the movie does have some good nostalgia in it.
Yeah.
That scene where he's watching the movie, watching the drive-in movie from his rooftop with the binoculars. He's tuning in on his radio. That's like a bit of Americana that I've like never experienced, but I long for. Right. And if
does so much.
The way the camera pulls back and like shows that whole scene like it's painted, which I'm sure a lot of it was, but it just gives it this sort of otherworldly feel of like a place that you once were, but you can never get back to.
Yeah,
exactly.
The 80s.
Yeah.
Exactly. Truthfully, but also the innocence of going and doing things like that and seeking out entertainment in a world where you didn't have the technology that you have now. I mean, I think back to, I grew up in the middle of a fairly large Midwestern city, and there was a huge tree in the backyard that was probably 2 to 3 stories higher than my house, which was a multi-level house. And I would climb up there and I could see all the way downtown from there. I mean, you couldn't make out people's faces, but like, that's what kids did was.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and the adventures you'd come up with in your imagination and the things you would pretend to see,
And like the clubs, right? You have you like the Monster Squad, right? That when they opened that movie and they're in the principal's office, I was like, that was me. Like I was totally that kid that was getting in trouble because of like I had a comic book club, right, in 3rd grade, and we drew comics, you know,
Absolutely.
made up people that were just versions of just other superheroes, you know,
Yeah.
that is so real back then,
Yeah.
you know.
So many moments in this film, as silly and as over the top as they are rooted in something very real, and I think that comes through. Going back to that scene that you even mentioned, if you play that whole scene out, it's not just a cool bit of nostalgia of like, yeah, that happened. Some kid sat on a roof and watched the drive-in.
Absolutely.
And his dad comes out, hands him a bag of a burger and fries, takes the binoculars, watching the movie with him. It builds so much character. It does so much in that one little scene.
It was a great scene.
Yeah.
Great scene.
Like that's
And it also in that, you know, Club Treehouse with those kinds of moments. I mean, that's what the Kids with Bikes era was all about.
Yeah.
I mean, these were defining scenes, I think, for that genre. I mean, you see this all over the place in Stranger Things. I mean, it's, we rewatched that.
Well, and you know what I think it is? I think
all written all over the place.
Yeah, I think what comes through is that, you know, Shane Black and Fred Dekker were those kids. Yeah, 15 years before they wrote this and directed it, but they came from that world. You can tell that this was written, this was created by people who were those kids at one point in time.
Right. And I think what I also love so much about it is it's from the perspective of these kids' imaginations. And that's what appeals to us. I mean, from that short film you and I made for the 48-hour film festival, Darb, like if anybody's seen that, like this is the kind of stuff that you come up with an overactive imagination.
Well, and it seems so real, and that's
in the moment.
I'll get into the bad, maybe into the schlock. I'll talk about that a little bit more. That it seems to be in the imagination of the children, but yeah, I mean, it's this movie. It fulfills, and that's why I say, you know, you had to be a kid to see this movie and really appreciate it, because I think it really fulfills that portion of the child's psyche.
There it is. Yeah. I saw it as a kid. Michael is still a kid, and you saw it in your adulthood, and so you're a little lukewarm on it.
I'm a grumpy old man.
Yeah.
So some other scenes that I like. This movie, it's full of gags, like just kind of visual sight gags, like when they're getting ready to, when they're gearing up, the gearing up scene to fight Dracula, and they have the mom is looking for her silverware. She opens it up.
That's totally so God. I love that.
The movie is just chocked full of that, and that goes back, I think, probably to that Shane Black style of writing. There is a scene in it in particular that I absolutely love, but it's a complete throwaway scene, and that is the pilot's scene when they're flying the plane and those two guys are talking to each other. The two pilots are talking to each other. It doesn't have it. It makes you feel like they should be a bigger part of the movie, and that's maybe part of my bad, but like these guys talking just bitching about flying planes, and he's like, I hate life, and then at the end he's like, you're right, I love my life. And that scene done, and he goes into the back of the plane, and like
they don't need to be in the movie anymore because he had a complete character arc.
That's right. Yeah, that's
his
what's
movie.
So great about it.
Yeah,
the arc of the whole movie may have failed, but that scene,
you know, it felt very like the famous scene in Pulp Fiction, right? They're just driving along talking about a Royale with cheese. It's just two. Well, those turn out to be major characters in that
gourmet shit,
right? You know, it's just that whole idea of just a regular old conversation where people don't realize that they're in a movie.
Right. You're right. I love my life. So that is beautiful. And of course we have to talk about the intro scene. So I love that they have the text kind of scroll where it gives you the background. I love the end of that where it says, and they blew it. I don't know if they spell out very well by the end of that scene, like exactly how they blew it. But that whole intro, I love. I mean, it looks great. It looks totally legit for a period monster movie. It's awesome. Thoughts?
I agree. That's in my list of good. That is my number one good, is that intro. So it's got some Evil Dead vibes. It's got some just classic monster movies, that whole kind of medieval thing. It's the costumes are great, the vortex. But what I really like about it,
The vortex, so random, and I loved it.
yeah, what I
was just like, what is going on?
if you think about it structurally, you need to set this to set the setting, to set the story, to get the mood, right?
Right.
So most of these movies have an intro like this, whether it's the bad guy going and killing someone, or it's 100 years in the past, or lots of movies have this cold open. What's really great about this is it sets up the plot and the stakes. They know this is going to happen again. They know this is going to happen again. They know what they have to do. The audience knows that they blew it this time. Yeah. And they know what can happen if they mess it up. So you basically, as soon as you get to these kids in the 80s, you know what they have to do in the story. You know what their need is, what they need to accomplish. Everything is set up from that point on just to be a straight arrow. Now, did they do that? Not so much, but it's a really great way to set up what your movie is going to be about. This is basically these guys in the 1800s, 100 years before, blew it. So now these teens have to do what they didn't do. So you've got the whole story in a nutshell in your opening, in your cold open.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was an attempt at that. I don't know that it was success.
No.
Yeah. I think while it's a great scene, I do in fact think they blew it. But we can get into that in our bad and schlock section.
Yeah.
Anything else good for this movie?
Getting to the monsters. You both talked about the gags, and that's a lot of fun. But like, Joe, the Wolfman saying, "Hey, you got to lock me up," and the fight at the police station.
Yeah, that was awesome.
When they go to look for the mummy and it's gone. The way the creature from the Black Lagoon rises out of the water. I mean, it felt like heroes assembling. It was just a really fun.
Yeah. Well, and that end shot of once they're all assembled, like it pans out on them, like from above. Yeah. Great shot.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm surprised you haven't brought this up. It has a feature that we absolutely love in movies, and that is the rap song at the end that explains.
Yes.
That was going to be in Schlock, but yeah, that is amazing. Every movie should have that. Titanic, every movie should have a rap song explaining the movie after you've seen it. And you're in the audience bopping along, you're like, yeah, that did just happen.
And, just in case you didn't catch what happened.
Right. You're like I wondered about this character. Oh, that's what they did. Okay, cool.
All right. Well, let's move into our next section, the bad. Chris, you can't say anything here. I don't think you think anything is bad about this movie. Oh, you do?
I do. Yeah, I should start the bad because I probably have the least amount of bad.
By all means.
But you guys can. Once I'm going to say 2 or 3 things, and then you guys can agree, and then go off and tear this movie apart.
All right.
Let's
do it.
Most of the monsters are underused.
Couldn't agree more.
They just shoot the Gill Man.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything.
Just shoot him.
I mean, the mummy just gets unraveled. It's a cool looking scene, but there's no threat. I really like. I mean, Dracula obviously was the main bad guy, and he totally works. But his 3 lady vampires
who were awesome.
Such a perfect creepy. When they're walking toward them at the end, they're scarier than the rest of the monsters. I like that. I like that Frankenstein turned on them.
They're set up in the beginning.
They are
right. They're shown like fighting the Crusaders or whatever you want to call them at the beginning. Whereas the other, I think these are different. I think these are the gals that he fed on in the closet. They're different brides, but they don't set up the monsters and like what they're capable of.
Right. And so basically the Mummy, Wolfman, and Creature from the Black Lagoon, they're just underused and underdeveloped. And I mean, if you're gonna do a whole thing about a monster squad fighting a bunch of monsters, you should utilize them more. So I love to see them all, and I like that they were there and it was fun, but they were underused.
Yeah.
A lot of things happen too easily and too kind of coincidental. Van Helsing's diary.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I just found this. Like, okay.
Probably my
Great
biggest problem.
mystery moment that really fell in line with what you guys were saying of Goonie correlation. You know, these mysterious places that you find yourself and you're almost falling into it, but there's no continuity there.
Right.
Absolutely none.
Like
the purpose of finding it is what?
Yeah, they should have had a reason to find it, and it should have been a challenge to find it.
Right.
So then why here?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like that's
fell out of the sky.
My biggest problem with the movie is that it just takes so long to reveal itself. So apparently, like the disciples of Van Helsing shacked up in Middle America and hid the diary there, but they don't really reveal that, and they don't. I don't think they ever even explicitly say it. You just have to kind of piece that together.
Yeah.
And so through the whole movie, it's like you're waiting for it to be like, well, why is Dracula doing this? Why is he doing that?
Why are these monsters all here? And why is the little amulet, the green glowing amulet, why is that there? Yeah. None of that is explained at all.
Right.
Which
and
again,
how does the scary German guy know?
Like, well, I mean, he translates Van Helsing's diary. Plus, he's a scary German guy. So
yeah.
I have no qualms with him. He was amazing.
Which is his character name, by the way.
Which is another Shane Black thing, which is just name the character what they are. So then the last thing, and this one is really minor, and I'm not sure if it's good or bad. I feel you could probably take it out of the movie and streamline it, but the parents fighting.
Yes. And
like,
let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me throw it in a little bit more. And Michael, you kind of touched on a little bit earlier, and this all has to do with the potential missing 13 minutes. There are just so many storylines that kind of go nowhere. The parents, perhaps in the middle of a divorce, where Dracula get his magic car. The scary German guy who is apparently a Jew from Auschwitz, right? Like they have that line where it's like, hey, you know a lot about monsters. Like, yes, I think I do know so much about monsters. And you see his like Holocaust tattoo, and that's it. Like you know, like it doesn't really come into play.
Dead ends left and right.
The partner, which I thought was really interesting, his detective partner, who is quite the card through the whole movie, just
loud and
wise.
Oh man!
And then he just blows up, and that's it. You know, there's just so many unended threads throughout the whole movie, and I think the biggest one is the parents fighting,
because it's such a moment. Right?
I don't think so. I think the most purposeless is truly the perversion in the treehouse. I think that that literally did nothing for any of the plot, other than we've located our blonde virgin.
Well, while that is in the bad column for me, that he's just like the cool kid is a creep. Like I think the correlation is odd. It is so that they can locate a virgin.
And
like
blackmail. They use it to blackmail.
They use it to blackmail her. Like that's feels
it's wrong.
It's creepy.
It's creepy.
Porn,
it's ick. But
it
does serve a story purpose in blackmail. They could have done something much better and much different, but it doesn't. It's not a loose end.
Yeah,
and it was unnecessary. I mean, did you need a virgin? For who this was geared towards? Did that subject matter even need to come into play?
Well, it feels a very classic monster, but the question
Sure.
is aren't they all? Couldn't
Yeah.
any of them read it?
Yeah.
Specifically female virgin, I
It
guess.
never says that,
No.
right?
Yeah. I don't know. I could have done without that and gotten more on the German guy, but I get
I
it.
agree.
Like it's supposed there's supposed to be some gags in that of like, oh well, Steve doesn't count. So
But then they also present little Phoebe as the virgin, which is, I think, even creepier.
it's very weird.
That's the plan B.
It's
I don't
super
know.
weird, but I mean,
Yeah. That was
to
the
be
sour
fair,
point
it's
for me.
Frankenstein who takes the picture, and he does it by accident.
Yeah. He's well, I think he's looking at it. I think he's very interested in the picture.
Oh, he's interested, but he doesn't know what the camera thing is.
But the
Right.
thing is with Phoebe is that it allows her, the most interesting person in the show, I think, to sort of be the hero at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You know,
Which is-
unexpectedly.
Yeah, which is cool. It's just they could probably find a less
Creepy
icky
way. Yeah.
reason to have that happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other bads for
No,
you?
and like I said, the parents fighting, I think it's bad in what the movie was. Maybe in those 13 minutes, it would have been really good because parents about to divorce is a big moment for kids in their life, and they would seek fantasy because of that.
And distraction. I thought
Distraction.
the same thing. Yeah.
And if monsters were real and the cop husband saved his family, that would be a way to, like, you know what, our
Reunite.
little fights could bring us back together. But it's not there in the movie. It doesn't complete that to my satisfaction. So it just feels
Like they say in Stranger Things, shared trauma.
right. So
reuniting.
I think they should have cut it or put those few minutes back in that tied that up in a nice, neat bow.
Mhm.
We got a comment from Castellar Daniel Garcia saying that the werewolf transformation was wild. That I will say that was a good.
That was
Yeah.
one of the best moments,
Yeah.
I thought, in
And-
terms of monster
A
development.
lot of the practical effects I thought were really good,
Really good.
and they paid. It was like Stan Winston paying homage to the classic monsters, which was just really cool.
And again, got to give props to Stan Winston. The
Yes.
guy, I mean, was
Yeah.
totally amazing.
Yeah.
So one of I think you said it that things aren't really motivated exactly in certain circumstances. Something I had a really hard time with because I love the scene. It's when the parents are fighting. The main kid, he looks at the message board in his house, right back
Love
in the day
that.
when you had to write down notes from
Right.
Yeah.
the answering
When you
machine.
couldn't text each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you couldn't text each other, and it says Mr. Acula from school, or not Acula,
Alucard. Yeah.
from school, something about Van Halen's diary or something.
Maybe
like
worth
that.
money.
Maybe, yeah. I love that note, but the thing is that when he goes and he sits down with a piece of paper and he's immediately like, Alucard, and he starts like investigating the name
Like-
as like an anagram or
If
something.
he would have saw it in a mirror and saw it spelled Dracula or something.
Right.
But-
yeah,
But what I
Like,
love
why?
about that scene is the how it characterizes the mother as like just totally like, yeah, oh yeah, his son, my son has a message, I'm just gonna write it down, and doesn't bother to like realize what she's written.
the uninvolved parents, which is very important for kids on bikes movies.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's
Got to
a-
get the parents out of there.
yep.
Let's see, I have two more bads. Michael, you got a bad?
You already brought it up.
Yeah, I would say the creepiness aspect was a big bad for me, but I would also say, like, just the elements of continuity that became the actual problem. I think it's funny how these little things that could have been really cool were actually what detracted from the film, because all of those things that you're talking about in terms of the cop involvement and the parents and all these things could have been really cool ways to draw everything together, but they left almost all of them were cliffhangers. You're like, okay, where did that go? At the end, I was kind of like, huh? Just reminiscing through it in my mind on the drive home. I was like, that would have been so cool as a kid, but it is just puzzling as an adult.
Right.
And downright frustrating, you know?
Right.
Because I liked it so much, it made me so mad that it wasn't as good as it could have been.
Correct. Yeah, that's everything. All my complaints, I agree with everything both of you are saying, but it's because I love the movie. Like, yeah. So what else do you have, Darby?
So this is kind of in the vein of all that, and what we've been talking about, the Frankenstein story. While I loved it, I don't get it, because so the Frankenstein befriending the little girl, him becoming a part of the monster squad. Frankenstein is a misunderstood monster, but the whole thing is that
almost the betrayer of the monsters.
Right. Well, but when we see him, Dracula is like, you gotta kill these kids, right? And he's like, yes, master. Right there. There's no like, why did he become friendly? Like, what's the motivation there? Again, missing footage, which if he's getting ready to like strangle the little girl, but she's like, you're not ugly, you're my friend, and he's like, oh, human nice. Or whatever,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an homage to when Frankenstein finds the girl in Frankenstein.
But in that, he
little boy
is a little girl, and he tosses her in the river.
Right. So this is a revisionist history. I think they wanted to say that he was like, he was under Dracula's control. He never wanted to be a monster, so he's been fighting that urge. Like when they kind of resurrect him, I got the vibe that he didn't really want to come out and hang out with them, and he doesn't feel like part of the monster group.
Yeah,
but it could have been.
I agree. I like that it's there, and here's the problem with the ending is that he gets sucked into the vortex, and it's a very, very sad moment. And
right,
it's like, isn't that where
Sloth gets to live with Chunk?
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. Oh, good.
You're gonna live with me now. Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
Now, here's the other problem at that ending is there's a car and everything flying into the vortex, and people are holding on to trees, which is fine because they're deep roots and under railing. That's fine. She's holding on to a bench that's fallen over.
Yeah,
there's no reason that bench should not have been sucked into the vortex. Would have been much better is she was about to get sucked into the vortex. Frankenstein reaches out, grabs her leg, and is holding her while he's holding something else, and he's the reason she doesn't go into the vortex.
Exactly.
And then,
how wild though! That's so. Watching this movie, I actually thought that. I was like, "How is that bench not going into the vortex?"
Right. And so
glaring.
And the fix is so obvious because it was done in Goonies a couple years before.
Right.
You have Frankenstein save the girl, and then she goes up to the parents and says he's going to live with us now.
And they go, okay,
Right. Yeah.
Is he housebroken? Something
very
like
Harry
that.
and the Hendersons almost.
Right. So that I love the reason it's in my bag is because I love the Frankenstein arc in there, and I just wish it would have landed and been set up maybe a little bit better. But my number one bad for this movie, and then we'll get into the schlock because we've been kind of talking schlock all night, but we'll really get into it. My number one bad for the whole movie, and this just goes to show that I did not watch the movie when I was a kid. I watched it when I was just a grumper elder emo. A grumper, is that a word? A grumpy elder emo.
It can be now.
Yep.
I'm just a grumper. These kids scream too much. They're too loud.
But dude, watch 80s movies.
No.
So
no, it's too loud.
No, but it's the thing, man. We watched so many 80s movies this year in the Schluter Sunday Summer Cinema Series, and they all scream all the time.
No,
It's
no, no, no,
completely
no.
obnoxious.
Just turn it
No,
down.
no, no.
Turn it down.
Here's the thing. It's not right. What we were just doing there, what we've been doing through the whole podcast, right? We're talking loud, kind of arguing a little bit, talking over each other, right? That's what that sounds like. The main kid in this, through the whole thing, every time he talks, he's like, "Ah, Mom, we gotta," and it's like,
use your inside voice.
hell up.
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, these monsters, they can hear you.
Authenticity. That's how kids sound in the 80s.
If you were going through that, you would yell too, Darby.
He just acted too
face
hard.
the facts.
Bro, when you're fighting monsters, you can never act too hard.
Overactor.
I hated that. Old man yells at clown. Yeah, for sure. That I'm just a grumper. All right, let's get into the next session, the section that people have been waiting an hour to get into, which is okay. This is Halloween special, baby.
And it's a great one. This is honestly, you really picked the movie. I think
not us.
I think the collective unconscious has reawakened to this movie this year, not just for me, but I've seen it on social media platforms where I don't think I've ever seen it before, and maybe I just wasn't aware of it. There's something about this movie this year that is reawakening in our culture.
Do we have like an 800 number for people to call to get their fortunes read by Michael that we can just put up?
Yeah. 1-800 good time Michael.
No.
Call Cleo Schluter.
So the Schlock.
The Schlock.
One of the things I loved about this movie, but I just thought it was too schlocky, because it is part of that sort of zeitgeist, which I think is really funny. What's the movie that they want to go see that he's watching from the rooftop?
Right, it's a slasher.
Groundhog Day 12. So this is funny for a few reasons. Let me explain the joke.
Do it.
Number one, it's number 12 in the series because, right, these slasher movies, they just make them and just keep going in for their return on that money. Right, little joke there. Groundhog Day, the fact that it's a holiday, right? We got Friday the 13th, Halloween, there's April Fool's Day, there's Valentine's, right? Or My Bloody Valentine. And so they're like, what's the most innocuous holiday that we can get?
Right.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah,
right.
Perfect.
Now, so a little.
I want to see this movie now.
What I think is really funny about it is that this movie was created and released before the Bill Murray classic Groundhog.
One of my favorite movies.
Now, there's a meme that went around probably quite a few years ago now, where they're saying they should release a sequel to Groundhog Day, call it Groundhog Day 2, but just re-release the movie in theaters. So you just see the same movie again, because he's just reliving the same day over and over again. And I thought that was hilarious, just imagining that someone in an alternative universe did that 12 times.
Right, so it's just the exact, it's like Friday the 13th part 1, but part 12 is the exact same movie.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. That's great.
Which is also indicative of what the dad was saying about the movie, right? He's the guy comes to life, he kills everybody, he gets killed at the end, and then next movie, same thing, rinse and repeat, right? Mm-hmm. So it is kind of like releasing the exact same movie over and over again.
Funny.
Well, and that's what a lot of those horror movies were. So it's a very meta joke. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, all the Friday the 13th, Jason kills teenagers, that you're done.
Right. That's all I want.
Yeah.
So what are some of your guys' schlocks? Show me your schlocks.
I mean, the whole thing is just schlocky, but I think it's the whole genre of kids on bikes, right? This is so I love this movie. You like this movie. Michael somewhere in between. He loves it, but maybe not as much as me. But Whether
he's
it's
in
a
the
good
middle.
movie, a bad
The
movie,
kid in me loves this movie. The
right?
adult in me is mad about it because they couldn't. It didn't live up to what it could have been.
So like Frosted Mini Wheats.
much.
That's
Gotcha.
good.
No, but it's quintessential Kids on Bikes. Whether
Yeah.
it's a good movie or a bad movie
Mhm.
is almost a moot point when you're talking about like cult classic, culturally significant genres. Like this is like this. I think a lot of people know Goonies. I think a lot of people know Lost Boys, and I think this fits perfect. It's not as good as either of those,
Right.
Mm-mm.
but
But
it fits perfectly on the Schlock shelf in between those two movies.
it is an icon of that genre. Like
Yes.
it is like this. If you could boil the genre down to its essence and make it into one, maybe not perfectly distinct thing, but something that everyone would recognize,
Mhm.
Monster Squad.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes. Defining for the genre for
Yeah,
sure.
it is.
And for future movies of
Yeah.
its kind.
If you like Stranger Things and you like the whole 80s Kids on Bikes genre, you really should see this movie because you've
Mhm.
probably seen Lost Boys and Goonies. And again, both of those are not only cult classics, but two of my favorite movies of all time. Like they are just
Mhm.
great films.
You know what? It even has some similarities to like the one you guys did. Was that 2 years ago you guys did Ernest?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Dave's Halloween?
Another great Halloween movie, man.
And some very similar things.
Yeah.
You know, with Eartha Kitt.
Yeah.
You know, she's kind of the scary
Yeah.
German guy of this film, right?
Mhm.
You know,
He who shall not be named has a really good point.
right. Right.
I saw this back. This is from Maniac. I saw this back when it's from. I think its quality is indeed a moot point, given that it was made for the kids of the time. Very, very much so.
Right. And we wouldn't have cared back then, would we have?
No.
So I have to
no.
remind myself of that when I watch things.
We would
like
have
this.
loved this.
Absolutely.
Every year that went by that we did not see this movie is pulled love from this movie from our
I
heart.
know. Dang it.
We've shorted
How
ourselves.
did we? We
on
missed
it.
out.
If
Emily
you saw
said the
this
same
in a
thing.
theater in 87, you are one of the blessed few
Yeah.
who
No
can
doubt.
truly know what this movie can mean to you.
No doubt. I have to say, one of the really fun schlocky roles of this movie, I have to say, was the Van Helsing interpretation.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, but to me, very,
Oh.
very schlocky. Like,
Super over the top, campy,
yeah,
histrionic. I love when he comes back at the end. Like, how can he come out of the vortex?
right. You know who he almost reminds me of is like the guy in Young Frankenstein that like brings him the will of his grandfather or whatever.
Yep. He also kind of had vibes of the fake vampire hunter from Fright Night.
Oh yeah.
But real.
Yeah.
But real.
I actually got to give that a check in the good column, because that's one of my biggest dislikes of Fright Night, is that the vampire hunter is sort of real, but not really real, but a little real. And here's just Van Helsing. We've got a good monster hunter here, solid monster hunter.
Yeah. I would have liked them to cut back periodically in the film to bits of what happened back then and piece
that would've
the
been so
story together parallel almost. I think that could have been a really cool idea of okay, they need to figure out something to do in the present, and then we as an audience see something that went wrong in the past, so we kind of have a little more knowledge than the kids do, so we know what we want them to do, and then we watch them struggle not doing it, and then they find a way to do it. And I think it could have been a really strong narrative device.
We have a diary, and we have an opening scroll. Like we could at least just had some narration.
Right.
Right.
We cut out some of the creepy stuff, and we get a little more creepy scary German guy.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's reading from the diary, we flash back.
Yeah.
So I want to bring something up to you that has been playing in my mind as we're heading into this era. Well, I mean, we're fully in now, let's admit it, of these remakes of movies, which I just saw I think it was probably a fake of the Goonies has reunited, the old cast, and it's going to come out Christmas of 2025 or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know that is true. I'm
they've
strongly
been
doubting
saying
it.
that for years.
Right.
But you have so many movies, Beetlejuice being the most recent, which I thought was pretty decent, but at least true to being on brand. But you could make an argument for movies like this that really fell short of their true
Right.
capacity.
Yeah.
If they did it with movies like this,
Right.
where it was a good concept to begin with, but
So
fell drastically short from what it could have been, and you remake that or
Interesting.
sequel it,
yeah.
that would be worth doing.
So-
and I wish Hollywood catch the
Yeah.
vibe of these are the kind of movies we want to see that with, not the classics that everybody loved
Correct.
and were insanely popular that we don't need a sequel to, we
Or-
don't need
or
a
a remake of.
reinterpretation to.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff we need now.
You're 100% correct. Darby and I have talked about this at some point on the podcast. Let's pause for the what's
Having a-
Maniac got.
Do a sequel. Well, this is kind of what they're talking about with the
Yeah.
Goonies movies, where like the sequel, the kids from the movie are the parents now, and then it's their
Right.
kids that go on an adventure. I would love to see that happen.
Yeah, I would totally love to see that happen. But I think to Michael's point, and we had talked about this on a previous episode years ago, that there are some movies, even if you like them, okay, we're all in agreement. We don't hate the Monster Squad. We like and or love the Monster Squad, but we also agree that the concept is a million times better than the execution.
Right.
Right?
I'd say so.
Yeah.
And fairly original.
And fairly original. And there are lots of movies where I love them, even though they're not necessarily a great movie, because I think the concept is so cool and so good. And those are the movies that should get remade, not this classic that everyone
And there's
loves and
movies that
adores.
do it worse than this that shouldn't, but this is the kind of movie that should. You
This-
know what I mean?
You could remake the
This is
Monster Squad
exactly
and
the
make
vein
it.
of what our generation would love to see.
And you know who would remake this and make it 100 times better now? Shane Black and Fred Dekker.
Absolutely. They
Yeah,
totally should.
for real. They would knock it out of the park.
I mean, let's face it, Shane Black is not exactly a lightweight.
No. I mean, I would love. I
We
loved
were
everything he did in this movie. I would love to see him redo it. What
We
I'm
were
sorry,
talking
Darby. What were
about
we
this
saying?
the other day. What has Shane Black done recently though? That's been a hit. The last thing was The Predator,
Dude, he
right?
doesn't
And that
have to
movie
do
sucked.
anything.
Yeah, I mean he's got a new movie in the works based on a classic mystery novel starring Marky Mark. Come on, Mark Wahlberg.
But dude, he doesn't need to be doing that much. I mean,
No, he doesn't.
Iron Man 3 was what, in the top 25 most profitable films of.
I mean, on the
time it
coattails
came out?
of creating Lethal Weapon, he doesn't need to do anything. But Darby's right. A lot of Hollywood is like, okay, you're kind of judged on the last thing you did and how well it performed.
That's true. That's true.
But
What have you done for me lately, Shane Black?
yeah, every time he comes back, almost every time, he knocks it out of the park.
Right.
So I think you wouldn't need a crazy huge budget for something like this. I think
you
you
wouldn't. And all of these people, I bet you would sign back on, because none of them are huge stars like you're talking about for Goonies or some of these other movies. You know, that they would actually profit from doing a thing like this again. And some of them are, our age now, these kids.
older.
And have more experience under their belt. The writing, the director, and
would
those
make
monsters,
great secondary characters.
dude, those monsters could be the very same actors too.
I'm surprised that after how well Stranger Things performed the last decade, that they haven't done a Kids on Bikes that focuses more on horror, not just because of Monster Squad, but you're looking at Lost Boys. I mean, there's so many.
It's like someone should write a movie like that.
Yeah.
Pregnant. Pause.
Honestly, I'm kind of surprised Stranger Things didn't do an homage to this movie.
I mean, there's probably one in
surprising
there.
to me.
Yeah.
But it's also really surprising that this was not on my radar till now, because this is exactly what I loved as a kid. And I'm
That's
curious
the cool thing about these cult classics and these schlocky movies is that like Darby and I have watched a lot of schlocky movies.
Yeah, you
There's
have.
still some that are total cult classics that I'm like,
Yeah.
why have I never seen this before?
Yeah.
Dead of Night, not Dead of Night, Dead Heat. When we
Dead Heat,
reviewed that,
yeah.
one of the first movies we
Mhm.
reviewed on the podcast, also Shane Black involvement. Not a great movie, but so fun and so like, how did I never hear of this before?
Right.
Right.
Well, apparently it's a pretty poorly rated movie, but we like it. Watch the show on that. So something else I want to get into. I teased this earlier. The ending of the movie, and kind of we were talking about kids' imaginations, right? How the kids' imagination makes it so real. Side note: those are like the best episodes of South Park when the kids are playing like some sort of kid game, but it like totally gets out of hand. It's totally real. Like those, like that's always such a fun ride. And so this movie, is that what this is? Because by the end of it, we have the army coming at the behest of a small child.
I forgot about that bit.
Like it, the ending like just gets so far.
You know what that
That
ending
escalated quickly.
That's a Scooby-Doo ending right there.
Right.
Yeah, more than that. Holy
so it's so weird to me because the ending. I mean, it's a very fun ending, funny, lighthearted. Like, oh, where's Eugene? We got this letter from him, right? And but yet the cop partner blows up in a car.
Yeah.
Like that, something very serious that you can't go back from, to this type of ending where you're like, oh, maybe it was all a dream, or the vortex is going to reverse.
Everything's going to be okay. Well,
nope,
not really.
That guy's dead.
Hey, kid, I bet you thought I blew up in that car.
Yeah, the kid should have willed out his treasure chest that says Deus Ex Machina.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just think it's such a weird tonal shift.
Which is, like, just when you think it can't get any sillier, they pull the rug out and you're like, nope, it went full on cartoon.
We're going to make it
exactly
so big you won't forget it.
Which also
makes it the most forgettable part.
That also kind of harkens back to a lot of like comedies from the 50s and 60s where it's like the joke, whether it was good or not, still trumped like logic and or continuity and or tone.
Right.
Like some of those comedies, you're like, well, and then a horse walked in. You're like,
then a horse
okay.
walked in.
Yeah, just like total non sequiturs, total like anything for the joke. The joke trumped everything, right? And it kind of feels like that was another type of movie that Shane Black and Fred Dekker grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt like very kitchen sink, like, you know what? Let's homage this. Let's throw this in. So silly. And it almost takes you out of the movie if that's possible.
Yeah. So anything else? I think it's interesting that Dracula, his cane specifically has jumper cables in it.
He's had to resurrect Dracula.
I gotta get me one of those. Did they sell them on Amazon?
Well, and he has a car. He has a driver's license. He's got a jumper.
It's very the Munsters.
Yeah.
It's very the Munsters. Yeah, I mean it feels.
Those were the moments that I was just like, "What is this?" I have no idea what just happened. Where did that car
I mean, we also did not bring up the quintessential line that they named the documentary after. I mean, Wolfman's got Nards. Some of the one-liners in this made me do spit takes. I'm like, well, some of it you're like, wow, you can't say that now. And then some of it was just so silly and so strange and so like spot on. When Fat Kid's like, my name is Horace. Just so silly and so over the top, but so good. And so like, that is the exact thing that he would say right now.
Yeah. Well, and those are the kind of, I mean, you think about other films that we have lines that we've literally recited our whole lives. those are the kind of lines that resurface.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And another thing that makes this movie live on and has a long endurance, right? It's very endearing.
Endearing and
Very-
enduring.
And endearing. So very quotable, all good things. Do you guys have anything less? Final thoughts on the Monster Squad that we haven't hit on already? We've talked almost as long as the movie itself.
Yeah.
is.
No, I mean,
We're going to have to cut out an extra 13 minutes of this.
Yeah, we are.
just choose the
You
ones
get
that will make us
long-winded
make
me
no
on here.
sense. Yeah. No, I mean, I'll just reiterate what I said before from my final comment of like, this is quintessential Kids on Bikes. So you
Yeah.
should at least see it.
You should. You
Yeah.
should. And I think it's also where it's a kid, or it's a movie our generation can watch with their kids, except for maybe the creepy parts.
More or less,
I don't know.
like, don't do that. Don't do that
don't
in your
do that.
treehouse.
Don't do that.
So, all right. Well, I think that is all the time that we have for this month. We are still kind of getting back into the swing of things. Like I said earlier, we have going on in the background. One called Bear and one called our good friend Michael Schluter here has helped us with immensely, and we can't thank him enough. So it's always a pleasure to be able to have him participate more on the front side of the camera with us. Yeah, what do we think is coming up next for the Compelled by Schlock podcast, Chris?
Well, we'd have a Friday the 13th in December, right?
Yep, there is another Friday the 13th in December.
So we will
we're on
continue
part
with
four.
the tradition of doing the next one. Is it part 4? I think part 4
Yeah.
is what we have coming up next. And then
Right.
we'll probably do a holiday themed movie. So
Yeah, maybe do something in Thanksgiving season in November. We're gonna keep them coming out, but maybe not once a week like we were.
yeah, stay
But-
posted. You never know when we might drop something.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Thanks for having
All right.
me. Ellis.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank
Michael.
you for
Great to see you.
coming.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maniac Clown. Thank you, CDG, for coming in. I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson. This is Chris Anonymous, and this is Michael Schluter. We've been compelled by Schlock, and we will see you sometime in the future. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.